Don't know about you, but I am always captivated by the stories that crop up every so often. The ones that tell the tale of some scrappy dog or a very determined cat who made it back home, back to their humans against all odds, often traveling great distances to do so. I recently learned about a cat named Holly who got separated from her people when they were all on vacation in Florida. When the family packed up their RV on the last day to head home, 4-year-old Holly was nowhere to be found. The family searched high and low. They stayed even on for a couple of extra days, but eventually had to leave brokenhearted. They only hoped she was okay and that just maybe she would find a new family. But everyone knew that would not be an easy thing. Evidently, and to put the best possible spin on it, Holly was a one-person cat, and Jacob Richter was her lucky person. She shunned everyone else, including the rest of the family. Holly Golightly, she was not. She was said to be feisty, particular, prickly, and picky, and she would often hiss to be sure everyone knew it. And so Jacob counted himself especially blessed that Holly had somehow taken a liking to him, even to the point that she would curl up in his lap and purr. Given all of that, one has to wonder how sincerely the rest of the family missed her, but Jacob most certainly did. And so when he received a call 2 months later that she had been found a kilometer away from home, Jacob was over the moon. Holly, over the prior 8 weeks, had trekked over 300 kilometers to find her way back. Scientists don't yet understand how cats and dogs do this. They just know that from time to time, they do. Looking to other animals, we have learned so much about how they navigate, how they travel vast distances, yet can always find their destination, though it may be a place they've never been before or a place they lived only for a short time. Salmon will often spawn in the very gravel beds in the upper reaches of the same river where they were born. Monarch butterflies, in a chain across multiple generations, make the trip south for the winter to the same place every year, and then others across generations journey back to Canada each spring. Studying seagulls and pigeons, sea turtles and sharks, scientists have come to understand that animals use a variety of tools, from the sun by day to the stars at night, as well as the Earth's magnetic field to get to where they need to go. And what of the human animal? What of Homo sapiens? While we too have at times found our way by the light of sun and stars, these days we are more likely than not to rely on a GPS with little thought to the constellations swirling overhead. But this morning, I'm speaking less about literal physical travel and more about the journey so many of us make at various points in our lives, a journey to find our way home, a journey we ultimately navigate by heart. It is a well-worn proverb that reminds us that you cannot go home again. And so you can't, not really. Anyone who has returned to the playground you knew as a child or the school you attended as a youth know that the passing years have an extraordinary power to shrink them down in size. Same with the places we've lived and even the people we have known. Gertrude Stein famously quipped about Oakland, California, the place where she grew up, that there is no there. This phrase over time has come to be used to describe a place that lacks culture or refinement, a place that is a boring backwater one would do well to steer clear of. but writing in her book, Everybody's Autobiography, in 1937. She was actually making a decidedly different point. She was speaking to that unsettling sense that the place that she was hoping to return to experience once more, was gone, swept away by the passage of time and the currents of change. In the fuller context of that passage in her book, written after a 45-year absence from her hometown, Stein was lamenting the loss of her childhood home. The fields that surrounded the house she had grown up in had, across the years, become the site of multiple homes, as the population of the small city she had once known had grown tenfold to a population of 300,000. I know many of you who have spent all or much of your lives in Toronto have witnessed similar shifts. Even after just 14 years, I'm struck by how much our city has changed in the time that I've lived here. The number of skyscrapers has almost tripled in that relatively short period of time. That kind of growth means, quite literally, the places, or at least the buildings we once used to know, are no more. There is no there, at least when it comes to our memories. This, of course, plays out on an emotional plane as well. As we reckon with the changing nature of our relationships over our lifetime and find ourselves missing people who have changed or moved on or passed on. I often ask people at a wedding or even a funeral to look around the room and to take in the faces of those around them. And then I point out that any such occasion is a singular event, as it is highly unlikely that this same constellation of people, this particular web of love and care, of memory and hope, will ever be reconstituted in exactly the same way. Such moments are ephemeral, shining, but always fleeting. As the inscription on the Queen Street Viaduct Bridge reminds us, this river I step in is not the river I stand in. Or put another way, you can't step in the same river twice. To these translations from the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus could be added also his observation that change alone is unchanging. And yet there is this longing we sometimes know in our bones, this deep desire for the unchanged, for the unchanging, a wistful feeling that moves us to want to or to try to return to some place, some circle of people, some set of circumstances, some enduring sense of home. The Welsh word hiraeth so beautifully describes a homesickness for a home to which you cannot return, a home which maybe never was. The nostalgia, the yearning, the grief for the lost places of your past. Part of this is simply the consequence of aging and the passage of time. As we take our place in the procession of life and travel through the years that are ours, the motion is always forward, and the past always retreating into the distance, becoming a place to which we can never fully return. As the writer Madeleine L'Engle describes it, we are all strangers in a strange land, longing for home, but not quite knowing what or where home is. We glimpse it sometimes in our dreams as we turn a corner, and suddenly there is a strange, sweet familiarity that vanishes almost as soon as it comes. But just because we cannot really go home again does not mean that we can't or shouldn't revisit the past if we feel moved to do so. The past holds the story of our origins, whether it is wrapped in lovely, loving memories or pain we struggle to put away, or some bittersweet blend of both. The path of healing, of personal and spiritual growth, often runs right through our past. The examined life usually entails making peace with our past, even if only in part and even if imperfectly, that we may come to better understand who we are and the meaning of the life that is uniquely ours. Soren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, once said that while we live our lives forward, we only come to understand them by looking at them backwards. I love the way that the poet Stanley Kunitz gets at this in his poem, The Layers, as he looks back across the life he has lived and the life that he is very much still living. What he does here is nothing less than meaning making. I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was, though some principle of being abides, from which I struggle not to stray. When I look behind as I am compelled to look, before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon and the slow fires trailing from the abandoned campsites over which scavenger angels wheel on heavy wings. Oh, I have made myself a tribe out of my true affections, and my tribe is scattered. How shall the heart be reconciled to its feast of losses? In a rising wind, the manic dust of my friends, those who fell along the way, bitterly stings my face. Yet I turn exulting somewhat, with my will intact to go wherever I need to go, and every stone on the road precious to me. In my darkest night when the moon was covered, and I roamed through wreckage, a nimbus clouded voice directed me, live in the layers, not on the litter. Though I lack the art to decipher it, no doubt the next chapter in my book of transformations is already written. I am not done with my changes. And it is a statement of fact that none of us is. We are not done with our changes until we breathe our last. And that, I believe, is the life-giving message to be taken away from any attempt to return to some point in our past, any attempt to hearken back to some historical sense of home. That because we are still alive, we are still changing. And that because we are still changing, we are blessedly still alive. Now, here, in the present, precious, fleeting moment. Put another way, the recognition that there is no there can be the very thing to help us embrace the gift of knowing that there is here. The writer Paul Monette, in his autobiography, Halfway Home, said that home is the place you get to, not the place you have been. This being alive, this being human, is the ever unfolding process of finding our way home by making our home as we go, here and now. This month, as we have explored our theme of home, we have reflected on home as a noun, as a physical or metaphorical place. But home is also a verb, meaning to return, to focus one's attention, or to move towards a particular goal. Let us then take up homing as the spiritual practice that it is, that we might home in on the here, today, and in every day that we are given. Blessed be.